Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky. I'm coming on to make one of the final videos in the 7 Days of Solstice series. Thank you all so much for being here and holding space during this highly spiritual and evolving solstice of 2023. What an incredible year we're going through. What an incredible climax of annual energy, of course, here in the Northern Hemisphere for sure, with the solstice, with the longest day that has come. Yes, I've already done the solstice live premiere, so if you want to understand more about the solstice itself, you can check the description box below, as well as the 6 other videos that are in this series, which I felt were relevant to this period of time. And this one is not going to be themed around any specific astrology. Rather, it's going to be more of a conceptual video about working to find clarity, light, and life during difficult times, and also the precipice that we are on, I feel collectively, as it relates to choosing hardship or choosing wellness. Okay, so this is kind of like a continuing video of the video I made called New 2023 Insights, Seeking Grace, Wellness, and Justice for the Self. So I'll link that below too. But it's very much in the vein of that video, and that's actually one of my favorite videos that I've filmed in a very long time. That was just impromptu during a nature walk. And I find that that's one of the ways that my content as a content creator is shifting, is to more of a like when the light comes on, I'm there, I'm with the recording device, and we're getting some really good messages, and this is going to be a video that's very much in that vein as well. Okay, so I feel that Crossroads is an understatement for where we're at right now. I feel that 2023 has been, to me, one of the most spiritual years I've experienced so far. And it's been a year where I feel that there had to be some trial and error, where there had to be a bit of experimentation as well, and a seeking of a different kind of system, foundation, or ground to stand on, whether physically or more proverbially, as certainly that's seen in myself, like trying to change up some of my stuff here on YouTube, but it's much deeper than that. It's happening, I think, for everybody at a different level, and we're all kind of going through a version of that where it's like not necessarily hating on the previous ways that things were, really honoring those sacred passages and honoring who we've been, but also understanding the changes that time requires for us as we grow more on our spiritual path. And that's kind of a great little way to talk about the annual more monolithic energy of a year like 2023 is those sacred passages, those ways that we cross, those rites of passages. So many people experiencing things in this year for the first time. For example, I've had a few deaths in my family recently over in 2022, actually, and that has led for 2023 to be a year where I, as a person, have had to experience life without certain people in my life who, you know, were always there. So we really see how we have to cherish and treasure the love and the life that is in our life. Not in a different way, because I don't feel in my own experience that I did not cherish or that anything was taken for granted, but there's something of that in 2023 where it's like the finite nature of life, or things which are not permanent, kind of going head in head with things that are more permanent. So that's definitely causing a lot of people to step more onto spiritual paths, moving more into religious pursuits I've been seeing for a lot of people, and working with things that seem or evoke more of a permanence as compared to the mortality. So it's sort of like a question of mortality that a lot of people have had during this year, and not just at a human level, but at a sort of cyclical level as well. So the things which are cycles in our lives, whether these are jobs, careers, relationships, we're all kind of looking at the finite nature of cycles, of life, of also conscious thought as well. Like, what are we cyclically thinking about all the time? And it's something that I want to talk about in this video a lot, with this sort of like idea of finding clarity, light, and life during this time, and wieldiness, and sort of a greater systemic well-being. I think that we have to think about what's living rent-free in our heads, and it's good to look back over the last few years and think about, okay, did all of the things that I was thinking about merit that passage of time? So at a mundane level, I think that everybody sees the importance right now, around the time of Solstice 2023, of like getting things out of their lives that are like harvesting their time, money, and energy without purpose. So this is very much the energy of like obstacles, mental knots, brain drain, things done in vain, wastefulness, even vanity, enviousness. All of these types of things are very much a drain on time, and not necessarily the results of a psychic attack, but you start to wonder, like, how can I better utilize my time on this planet? How can I better utilize how I'm progressing as a person, or how I am also connecting with the people who really matter in my life? So that's another thing that I've learned, whether or not it has to do with 2023 or the year of the rabbit, or any astrological transit, or just more of an experiential sort of gem or moral, is we can't take for granted the people in our lives, and we have to also maybe start to loosen up our grip on things which are so like disconnected or at the sideline of the things that really matter in life, which are like connection, family, also the experience of new territories, the experience of new cultures, the experience of learning new things, and expanding. Okay, I feel that a lot of people, because of their trauma or because of their pain from the past, they're thinking about it, right? Like the best example is probably like some people who have like a really traumatic breakup, and even though that breakup has happened, there's still so much thought about the ex, or there's still so much need for closure, or there's still so much need. Try to see if you're doing anything like that, whether it's regarding an ex, or whether it's regarding business, or anything in your life where it's like, okay, this has nothing to give now, but it's still here. It's still a part of me. Even things relating to like higher level societal issues like politics or culture wars or anything like that. Okay, this has nothing to actually put in front of me. This has no connection to actually me, but this is taking a lot from me, or this is taking a lot of my thought, or I'm trying to deconstruct things, or I'm trying to figure things out, or I'm trying to understand my opinion about things that are happening. There's a time and a place for that, and there's a need to understand what's happening in society, and a need to understand what's happening in general, but I also feel that it's a balance, and a lot of people, I feel, are like too dialed in to things which don't like actually come into their home or come into their experience. But there's also like, I don't think hysteria is the right word, but there's this like feeling like these things are affecting me, or these things are like such a threat to me. And taking time, I think, during this period of time is great to get like a lot clearer and lighter as a person, to just like understand like what actually affects me. And how you can know if this is kind of off balance is like the things that actually do affect you are totally out. Okay, so like the diet is totally off, the sleep is totally off, everything that's mundane or sixth house is off. That's when we're like overdoing things which are like out in the 12th house, right? Or out in a realm that is not real, okay, is when we are there. And I really believe that the rest of this year of 2023 is going to really snap us back to the present. And it's very rewarding for people who meet that halfway. It's very rewarding for people who are willing to just kind of sober up a little bit here. Yes, that's a very good word to use with it. I do feel that a lot of the sort of angst the collective angst, the collective fears, also the state of opposition or the state of resistance or the state of rebellion. I feel that it is essentially a form of drunkenness or a form of, yeah, it's like a substance abuse issue in its own way, because it is an escape for some people from a version of mundanity. So it's interesting thinking about the 6th, 12th house axis in astrology, because that's what I keep thinking of. And of course, we have Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. And we do have stuff moving into Virgo in July, of course, and we're getting closer to Virgo season. But the only thing I can think of that's heavier is like Regulus being in Virgo, okay, the fixed star. So maybe that has something to do with it. But just thinking archetypally or symbolically, trying to strike balance between the 6th and the 12th house in your own way. So striking balance between your own like mundane, daily, real life as compared to the ethereal outer realm that like is perceptible but not necessarily actually here or in your experience, is like important to think about right now, because I do feel that this is the difference for a lot of people between achieving health or not. And it's like hard because internet, social media, AI, everything, it like really expands and increases that 12th house other realm energy. And as a social media content creator myself, someone whose career revolves around that, and someone who has had to like do so much trial and error and so much like comprehension of like how this stuff works, trying to like work with it, that has been very rewarding. But you know, as I've had like real things happen into my life, it's something that has to be rebalanced from time to time, or it's something also as like being a creator myself and kind of like really getting a bird's eye view of how it works, being on like the other side, I suppose, of that economy or of that structure. It's very telling to see how much people are reliant on it or dependent on it at a level of consumption. And for me as a content creator, I think it's not as bad because my content is attempting to be transcendental, and I think that you know, it's more on the individual viewer to like moderate like how they consume it. But for other types of content, you know, content that is like criticism culture, stoking culture wars, stoking political divisions, stoking also addictive mentalities, or stoking people's consciousness in a negative way, because of sort of, I suppose, like the dopamine disruption or the psychological or even nervous system impact of the transmission impact of these constructs is becoming, for a lot of people, very negative. And I think that this period of time, it's very hard to find clarity because of the chatter. Okay. And I'm just shuffling through notes here because I had some things written down about that, so you might hear some papers turning over. But yeah, I just have written down here in regards to this topic, decreasing the chatter if you're unsure. Okay, so anything in your life, like if you have like, I don't know what career I want to be in. I don't know what type of person I want to connect with. I don't know where I want to be. Any of these kind of like existential like questions that are very karmic and very decisive about like lifetimes, okay? These types of people who are very unsure or confused, I think, are going to have to turn off the devices, or they're going to have to start to really understand the geography around them, to understand the weather around them, and to understand the natural day and night cycle that they're living in. So one of the reasons why a lot of us are so confused right now, or why a lot of us are so like unclear, I mean, yes, we have Neptune in Pisces, we have Saturn in Pisces, so that's gonna you know, I made videos about these. That's going to be something that supports confusion or supports a growth of confusion, which would ultimately have some type of like spiritual significance along the lines of the more confused things generally are, the more people have these like defining moments of clarity, or because of course the confusion attracts the equal and opposite reaction. So as the confusion grows, you have like this guarantee of eventual clarity, but when's it coming? And I think that that's something we have to like begin to take into our own hands. And this really depends on the type of person listening to this, like how well you feel, how clear you feel, how light you feel, how full of life force energy you feel. If that's feeling good, know that you're in a very rare demographic right now. If it's feeling kind of heavy, dense, unclear, unsure, don't worry, you're not alone. And I think that, okay, I'm just getting a very important universal channeling here. I think that the universe, higher power, is very, very supportive of people taking sabbaticals right now, vacations right now, taking time back to themselves, getting in clean, clear, easy, light places to figure some stuff out. I'm seeing some people by like the year 2030, 2032 being like, back in 2023 when I went out to the coast for 6 months and I just trusted that that would be a supported period of time, I really figured out like 10 years worth of momentum. And now I'm a much stronger individual. Some of you need to hear that. Some of you need to hear that there's going to be a time in the future where it was like really pivotal to have chosen during 2023 to decrease that dark, confusing energy and to trust that you would be supported during that process. So another thing that I think is really etching away at a lot of people's clarity, really etching away at a lot of people's trust, is money, okay? And the general rat race or way in which people generate stability and these concepts of stability. So like, it's hard because stability should bring clarity. Material success should give people the opportunity to establish foundations that overcome their previous feelings of weakness and their previous externalized disruptions that they had, like from other people, like other people disrupting you is a big thing of like poverty. That's one reason why people go crazy who like go through like a poverty schemata or poverty karma, is because it's like a very unliberating feeling. Like you feel very like trapped or confined sometimes when you don't have that financial freedom and like other people have control over you, and you have to have a certain type of job or you have to have a certain type of partner or family connection that is like making you feel kind of enchained. So here, for a lot of people on the other side of that, they're like, okay, so now I have overcome that obstacle, but now there's a different way in which things feel unsure or less liberating than anticipated. And that's where a year like 2023 is coming in to break a lot of chains and to break a lot of people free of their own sort of psychological confines. And that's happening, and sometimes that happens in a lot of poetic ways. Wake-up calls, you know, can be so many different kinds for so many different people. But I feel basically that as we're kind of like breaking free in a lot of ways, a lot of people really totally overcoming anything that doesn't feel right or going into experimentation phases to get their life a little bit clearer. What I have written down about this is allowing passage, okay? So many fear rejection or impasse, and they don't try. They don't trust in something higher. They trust something beneath, or worse, something that loses them sleep. So what we're trusting now should not be something that we fear, something that loses us sleep, okay? And there's a lot of healing that needs to happen there, and a lot of escapism away from focusing on healing that needs to be disrupted. So if you have anything that's like escapism and you're in this place, I'm directly talking to people who have like things that are like losing them sleep at night, confusing them, or like making them feel like unsturdy, like bad gut feelings, feelings of psychic attack, feelings of security threats, anything like that. Any type of auric abrasion or negative karmas as well would be also at a high right now. Absolutely. And it's important for people experiencing that to, even more importantly than understanding why it's happening, like that's important as well. But even more importantly, starting to like act in ways that counterbalance this. So it is a very good time for people to generate positive karma right now. I mean, it's always a good time for that, but it looks different for different people. If you've been kind of like flying by the seat of your pants, you can like maybe establish a more positive karma during this time by like finding a place to settle for a little while and getting yourself together. For others, volunteering can be a good way to do that. I'm seeing a lot of people finding clarity during this time by being around people that they wouldn't usually be around. Traveling, being around languages, or being around even just very different kinds of people can be a very good way to come to terms with who you are, or to learn about yourself by like seeing others. And I'm feeling that if people could be more comfortable doing that, or connecting with different kinds of people, volunteering, or working in a positive karmic way like that, as compared to addictively doom scrolling the social media app, addictively checking like bank account balances, all these like things that people do, like very neurotic kind of energy we're in. After the previous few years, of like being indoors more, we had what happened in 2020, this kind of cultivated a lot of weird little like neurotic, homely things happening in people's lives. Like I lay on the couch and I just like doom scroll the social media app, or I like try to find humor in the difficult time another person is having on a surveillance video that has somehow found itself at like a fails YouTube channel or something. I don't know. It's like weird what people haven't clicked yet that is like kind of over, or kind of like not so good anymore. So yeah, like in the 2010s decade, gosh, a lot of very positive things there. A lot of important experiences and offshoots for like the ancestral grid and the ancestral family tree. Bloodlines doing things they've never done before. Lots of blooming of art and culture as well. But I found it to be like a very dark decade. And this is a year, 2023, where we kind of get to choose, like, for this decade in the 2020s, is this going to be a darker or lighter decade than that previous one? Yes, that I'm feeling that very strong. I'm getting chills. It's like we are choosing that, like right now, like Solstice 2023. We're making that choice. This decade is darker or lighter than that one. And because we had that triple Capricorn conjunction in 2020, it can go either way, right? It's like right when the decade turned, we had that, what a lot of astrologers would consider a very malefic triple conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. But, it's also very empowering for certain people, and there's a way that it could generate a new foundation, or generate a new consciousness or understanding that can really get things better as well. But people have to choose it. It has to be very deliberate. So as we're stepping into a greater time of like a really important choices that determine long-term momentums, what I have written down about this is trusting spaces that are clean, clear, light, with simple systems and structures. So I've been talking around this all year. This like was an immediate change at the calendar new year of 2023. We went from a more like complex energy in 21 and 22 that was kind of like do whatever the heck it takes to like create a certain outcome, very kind of like nose to the grindstone energy. And even by the time of like November and December, that was starting to generate some really chaotic results in people's lives, and it just like switched. Like even though there's broad consensus that the real new year happens around the equinox. I found that the calendar new year of 2023 was a very much like a sudden shift that brought in a really sort of almost like universally enforced period of retrospection and potential for peace, at least. And that momentum is just pushing and pushing and pushing further, and it's getting harder and harder for people who are like trying to continue on in those like old, out of bounds, messy ways that are like achieving some type of result, but not like a very deliberate one. So yes, it does feel we get to take a break from that, and we also get to start doing things that really matter more, and it's very easy to do it with a certain amount of trust and a certain amount of willingness also to experiment with new ways. And one of the insights that I was getting about that as well was like people having to really, in some cases, not necessarily totally cut ties with things that are like dark or gross or gruesome in any way or overbearing, overwhelming. But some people are going to have to, like, either like if you have like projects in your life that are like really difficult, or you're having to like clean up other people's messes, really pay attention to that in 2023. Being volunteered as like the janitor of another person's carelessness. Whew, that stings, doesn't it? Yeah. Becoming janitor or like maid of the carelessness of another, being known to be that, being invited to clean other messes, that's very likely, and in its own way, empowering. I mean, that's kind of like the death card in tarot, where it's like coming through and seeing what is deteriorated or seeing what has expired and kind of like tending to that. But it's not very compatible, I think, with the natural energy of the year. I mean, I suppose that there's an argument that like that the death archetype is very strong in 2023 because of how much lighter things are getting and because of how much things are being turned over or transformed. So sure, that's there. But by now, okay, like passing the solstice of 2023, I hope that you allow yourself more delegation, or perhaps request more assistance yourself if you are having to deal with difficult things. If you are having to come to someone's aid, that's very likely, especially if you're a spiritual warrior, like people who are like strong or light workers, it's probably going to like you could come into contact with like a gravitational field of another person who like really needs that. And I assume that that's part of, being a light worker, or being someone who has this capacity is for it to be used in some way. But also I'm feeling that quite a few people just need to kind of like be and exist and trust the new waves, and also repairing anything that's like irreplaceable or personalized to you. So for example, it's a lot easier to delay materialistic projects than it is, for example, to repair a thyroid that totally goes out of function, or to like also after a certain point with like metabolic issues or any type of health problem, there's a certain point that's a lot harder to fix or a lot harder to heal from than some of these other things. So really watch out also for like self-sacrifice, or like pushing yourself to a point. This really needs to be like wrapping up, okay, past the solstice here. Pushing yourself to a point where it's like causing a health problem, not worth it here, okay, not worth it. There's been so much of that for a lot of people. And then, yes, especially if you're someone who over the last few years has like pushed so hard to meet deadlines, or pushed so hard to the extent that you might have had some kind of like health collapse, or even if it's not like specifically seen like that, like just knowing like, well, my sort of shining vitality that I used to be able to see in my eyes, in my face, like that's like deteriorating. Like really pay attention to stuff like that, because we can get that back here in 2023. But it takes kind of like a major sidelining of certain things which are not like emergencies in order to just go into a self-focusing phase. So that's also supported, and that's going to be one of the final things that I talk about in this video, is how supported it is during this general time to get back to working on you. Diet, okay? Sleep cycles. Clean, light surroundings. Even impermanent surroundings or medium-term surroundings are quite powerful during this time, because this combination of like good diet, good rest, light, even liquid experiences, salt water, okay, eucalyptus. I love the vibration of eucalyptus is very good right now. Lavender, okay, chamomile as an herb as well, or as a tea, or even as a rub, or some kind of diffuser with like lavender and chamomile. Okay, like these types of things are so positive right now, and for a lot of people, it's like, I'm not going to call it a trophy, but it's a reward that a lot of people have right now to be able to have these healing experiences. And as we move to the 2024 year cycle, that's going to start combining with like deep, purposeful expansion that we could have never dreamed of, like things really going to a level that is, for a lot of people, not predictable. So wouldn't it be important to be in good shape by then? Wouldn't it be important to be healthy for that? So 2023 is definitely one of those years where we have an opportunity to fulfill that, or to prepare, or to go back within. I believe I was talking about this in the July comprehensive astrology video, having the opportunity to go back within into the internal reservoir and restore or rejuvenate or recapture certain alchemical truths and well-beings inside. Restoring certain lost genetic code. I mean, that's a strange raw channeling, but like, if you have like an unfunctional thyroid, maybe finding a type of routine that causes it to start working normal again. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. In that sense, some of us need to like also really decaffeinate the experience, or if it's not caffeine, like just tuning down the frequency of like all the electricity around, or, you know, turning off some of the really sensational or zingy or spicy, flavorful media. Okay, movies, even for some people, music that's like a really hardcore, like a heavy metal music, or things like that. Not for everyone. Some people need stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say is like anything that's like really overwhelming to the senses might be good to decrescendo that during this time. Okay, if you're like an artist and you're like a heavy metal artist, it doesn't apply to you because that's like your art form. But I'm just saying, like over sensory expansion could be something that could just detract from the general healing of this time. Okay, so trying to rein in anything that's like over the top will also be really good for this. And finally, I feel that through applying some of these principles and allowing yourself peace, and also working slowly and methodically in small bursts, is really where the magic is at right now. So the 2022 year cycle and some of 2023 was very much like, just do whatever the heck it takes. If you have to like pull an all-nighter, if you have to like, you know, do whatever it takes. It's not like it's never going to happen again, but like we want to kind of get out of that now. And I feel a lot more possibility during this time and moving forward for the rest of this year in like, you know, 30 minutes a day for a few months, and whoa, we have a monolithic, incredible thing, you know, a year later or 2 months later, as opposed to, oh wow, this monolithic thing that I'm thinking about all the time but not acting towards, and then like 2 weeks before I know it has to happen, like going insane and like causing all kinds of like havoc to like try to get it done. So procrastinators of the zodiac, procrastinators of the world, I'm kidding, we got to figure that out. And it's important to probably dismantle any type of procrastination. So what's procrastination? Procrastination is, in some people, a trauma response. In other people, it's like nervous system damage. So it's like different for different people. And I mean, trauma causes damage to the nervous system. So maybe it's always a trauma response, you know, it's kind of like chicken or the egg question. But you see how it's all coming together though, right? Like lavender, chamomile, sleeping better, healing the nervous system. Maybe that's going to heal the procrastination as well. Maybe it's also going to help the trauma. And maybe this is all kind of like not linear. Maybe it's like kind of an ecosystem of well-being that actually starts to holistically ingrain a more ultimately productive or ultimately well situation, rather than such a zingy, like peaked or outlandish kind of like grandiose ideation that really leads to like a burnout or leads to some kind of type of like, you know, lashing out eventually, or some type of like coping mechanism orientation. Rather than that, we have to like work with energy production in a more momentous way. And this is going to be a period of time, you guys. Okay, 2023. As much as some of the maybe Aries people or Gemini people, or even Scorpio people might not love to hear it, it's maybe going to take a longer time. Because with that longer time, we can work more methodically and more momentously, and not have to create like a sacrifice at the level of self in order to get some like material outcome or to prove something to ourselves. And then also, I'm going to tell you guys, 2024 and 2026 are going to be years where it's like, whoa, all of a sudden I have to like really apply myself towards something. So we don't want to be like approaching those types of years from a burned out place, or from an etched out or hollowed out place. You guys, I am probably gonna have to be repeating this over and over again this year, because just some people like they know it and they feel it and they hear it, but it's like the reality isn't changing, and we have to like really know what needs to change during a time like this, and not be afraid, and not be disrupted by like these fears, and just kind of like know and trust at a deeper level that support will come through, or that things will work out. And finally, we're going to be a lot healthier when it is time to really, for a lot of people, step up to the plate. And it's times like these, year of 2023, especially solstice to solstice, like June to December 2023, where any of that future, you know, very dramatic or very ambitious or very, you know, highfalutin, high growing, bright, like dark red type of energy even potentially becomes possible or not. Like based on what we do from now, like June to December 2023, could determine like whether or not that's even accessible or even possible. So not from a burned out place, could it be? Not from a deficit, could it probably be like a mountain of resources by like 2024, you know what I mean? So we have to give ourselves more time, and we have to like maybe for some people cut back a little bit, whether this is at an energetic level or a monetary level. Take it into account, and try to trust that light, simple, life-oriented places, locations, journeys will find support, especially if we're doing the work in those places, and working in a more efficient and simple way. Anyway, everyone, I think that that's a good place to conclude this video. It's a bittersweet feeling to me because I've made some changes, and it's also concluding this video series, which I've learned so much through and has been such a joy to create. Such an important series of videos really for me as a creator, because it's kind of like things that I've really needed to say coming through, and in like 7 different videos. There's definitely plenty of room to say it in. But anyway, everyone, just it's quite late right now, actually. I've been working really hard to get this video series there. Doing a big 7-day promo like this is not something that just happens overnight. It's quite momentous and quite while it comes through in a way that's hopefully very streamlined and simple and easy feeling, it takes a lot of work. So, but it's a labor of love, and Thank you so much to those of you who've seen all 7 of the videos, or new subscribers perhaps who have come in, as I do feel like I'm talking to a few new people here, which is really incredible. Comment below if you're a new subscriber. And also, yes, do check out the links below. I have an updated Patreon page with updated offerings, and I have a lot of really incredible planned content coming over the rest of this year, as I feel that I'm very lucky as a creator, because this is a type of period of time that's very conducive for this kind of content. It just has to be efficient in its own way as well, and it's getting there. So much love to you all, and I just so appreciate you all being here and making this at all possible in the way that it is. It's always so valuable for me to also see your comments and to get your opinions about these energies too. That's very healing for me, and it just brings me so much joy, even more than, you know, subscriptions or Patreon or anything like that. I just really enjoy the comments, and I enjoy all of your messages. I read them all. Sometimes I don't have time to respond to emails or messages, but I do read them, and know how much it matters to me, know how much I am grateful for anybody who wants to participate with this content and participate in holding this safe space that is so essential right now in such a time of like difficulty, and spaces being like questioned as to whether or not they are safe and whether or not they are even going to be there or available. So anyway, thank you all so much, and lots of more content coming very soon, and have a wonderful, wonderful time finding clarity and lightness and a life in your own experience. Much love from me to you here at the solstice of 2023. Bye.